Welcome back, everyone. We're going to be kicking off in just a moment the second match of the day and the penultimate match of the regular season for Season 9. It will be between Sinners and Cynic, the American Showdown, the last North American team standing, the last South American team standing for some regional pride. I will be joined by Egdar for this. Not an American, but, maybe we'll adopt him after this match.
I wouldn't want to be adopted, to be perfectly honest, so get that out of my face. I'm not particularly interested. I'm happy being where I am, which is Europe. Not the UK necessarily, but hey, at least it's not North America anyway. Cynic versus Sinners. Now, you might be thinking, okay, what's the point in watching the match? You know, the top four teams have secured their playoffs. Calamity pulled out an astounding performance at the very end there to clutch it up at the last second. That being said, there is still some pride to play for. Teams from 5th to 8th are playing for iridescent shards, right? This does mean that there will be one team which does not get them. Right now, that's on track for Sinners, but if they do win this one, they do actually have a somewhat of a chance to get back in the running for that 8th spot. I believe it'll be 18,000 iridescent shards per player. Obviously, that's provided for us by Behavior, so we want to thank them greatly for that prize, of course. And it's also just going to be a good matchup. You know, both these teams still willing to practice, still willing to stay into it. And the first matchup that we're going to be seeing is actually something that we don't see all that often. I believe we saw it a couple of weeks ago, but Executioner, correct me if I'm wrong, Cole, but hasn't been all that common in DBDL, at least this season.
Yeah, Executioner it's in the pool reasonably often, but it's not terribly popular. It's also a killer where it feels like those sets are very often low stage games. You tunnel one survivor out, and maybe you get one more with Noed, and you end up with 6, 7 stages. And I wonder if that's part of why
Hmm.
teams are not super happy to play that. I'm curious as to why Cynic picked it. I would point out we've been seeing Cynic and Sinners, despite having some rough starts, they have had some major upsets. Sinners taking wins off of Ariandel and Trauma. Cynic most recently taking a win off of Eternal, and in that
That
match,
was insane.
Eternal banned Executioner specifically against Cynic. So clearly, based off of scrims or something, Cynic Executioner is something to be feared. I want to see if Wee Jason, presumably it'll be Wee Jason, is the player who can match Ultra on that pick. But after that, we'll be going into that Nurse set, and Sinners is one of the many teams that we've been seeing who are a Nurse team. A phenomenal Nurse player, no pun intended. Sinners loves picking this Nurse, but honestly, it has not really been working out for them this season the way they'd like to. The Nurse set, they had a 4K4 tie with Elysium very early on, and after that, they've lost every Nurse set they've played. Now, on the Cynic side, Angels being their Nurse player, not the killer player you normally see for them, still a good Nurse player, but maybe Sinners wanting to catch them a little off guard, forcing them to play a killer who's not Ultra. Do you have any expectations for this, Egdar?
Uh, I, in terms of who wins this, it's kind of up in the air for me, to be perfectly honest. Sinners have shown flashes of brilliance, but oftentimes it's kind of on their survivor side that things go a bit wrong for them. They'd have to really clear up that plate if they want an opportunity to actually get that prize, get those iridescent shards in, especially against a team who has been putting up a pretty solid performance right now. Cynic are 6th in the rankings. They are all but guaranteed to be making that top 8 and getting their, participation trophy regardless. Sinner's still kind of fighting out for this one just a little bit. It also kind of depends on how these kills perform on the unknown, right? We've been thinking about how strong the unknown is. People kind of estimated a tier 2, and that seems to be reasonably. That seems to be reasonable. We've been seeing a lot of unknown. Actually, the second most number of sets that have been played have been unknown for 11 sets. The top one being Dredge with 13. So for all the stat people out there, enjoy that one. So it gets a lot of play, so teams are quite well versed in playing against it and as the unknown as well, and also generally see some pretty strong results, to be honest. 4K3s are possible, but that's quite rare. That's the best result that we've ever had. More common 4K2s and even 4K1s, so a 4K is sort of the expected result on this killer as well. So it's going to be a lot of kills. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath, basically. With the exception of Executioner, who is definitely underperforming as a killer in terms of stages. Even though the chase is reasonably strong, you just don't have map pressure at all. There's essentially nothing that you can really do against survivors, you know, just running corners, holding W against you, playing the macro effectively. There's not a whole lot you can do about that, right? So aside from that, we do have Nurse and Unknown, so starting off slow but then becoming a bit of a bloodbath later. I gotta ask you, Cole, because you know these teams better than I do for damn sure. Who do you have going over here?
I honestly feel like Cynic should be in a slight advantage here. I really just want to see this Unknown set, honestly. I want to see a 1-1 to go into that tiebreaker. It's such an explosive set, and we've seen from these teams in particular, Unknown was a big part of Sinners taking that upset win off Ariando. For Cynic, Unknown was like their set. Even when they were having that rough stretch early on in the season, they were winning every Unknown set that they had. So both of these teams should be looking forward to that Unknown set. I would expect Executioner to go the way of Cynic. I'm honestly not sure if Nurse will go to Cynic or Sinners, but I am hoping it goes to Sinners so that we can get this Unknown matchup to close out this match. I'm hoping for some really good games here.
I'm also hoping for really good games. I feel like in terms of Preds, mostly just because I hate North America as a region with my entire soul, I kind of have to go for Sinners there, right? It's not personal, I promise you. It's just a little bit, but also the fact that I don't know, man. I like Wee Jason. Guy has shown a pretty nuts performance on most of the kills that they're put on. I like the bit that he's playing with the Penguins from the corner of Argentina as well. It's a funny bit. I like it. So yeah, because of that and that alone, I have no thoughts. I have no brain power into this. But I just have to go with Sinners going over here because that's what my heart really desires. We are going to be ready quite soon, not just yet, but okay. Cole was gonna mention something about the Falklands, but let's maybe not. We are going to be back with you very, very shortly. The game is being set up, is almost ready. We're going to be going over to a very, very quick break, and then we're going to have our first match for you here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back shortly. Well, you know what? Cole and I did promise you a very short break, so a very short break you've got. Ultra going to be opening it up here on the Executioner. Now, Ruin Pentimento seems to be the go-to combination right here. You don't have spectacular mobility to get around, so something like Eruption or Pop is going to be a bit counterintuitive. So Ruin Pentimento going to be a kind of more effective way of controlling these generators. Agitation as well recently has been proven to be a kind of popular choice. If you can get an early down, put them in the basement, defend it with your Torment Trails. That can always be quite effective on this killer. Plus, just the ability to move survivors to the hook stage where you want, going to be a big advantage here as well. And Corrupt is essentially base kit for most killers that we see here in DBDL.
Oh yeah, and Agi really has a special synergy with Pentimento. We've been seeing Pentimento being brought a lot, but not often activated. A lot of teams are going to opt to just not cleanse the Ruin ever, because it's easier to deal with Ruin than with Pentimento. And on top of that, if you cleanse that Ruin, you cannot die anywhere near the broken totem, because Agitation, they'll just carry you on top of it, camp you with a Pentimento totem right next to it, and your teammate just can't actually get the gens done in time for this, as we've got Kafuyo being the first chase, the first down in the corner of the map. Agitation probably not going to bring him anywhere further than the edge map. Maybe Ultra can try to hold this, but the Ruin totem will be broken, and that can be that backfire we're seeing, as Phenom's got a gen about 2/3 of the way done. Ultra really trying to drag him into this car pile. The hook will be coming in shortly. Bucky playing around the pain res that is banned on Executioner, so that rule change being a little bit unusual for Survivor players. Of course, we do not often see pain res banned, but we've been experimenting with that, and here we go. We've got a hook and we've got a Pentimento totem, and they are within eye shot of each other. Ultra can very easily hold this, and now the gens being slowed down by 30% means good luck punishing this camp. Kafuyo could very well be dying on this hook. Good luck saving against an Executioner attack.
Something that I, as a fan, would probably really like to kind of like listen to the pros about is the thought process on when do you cleanse Ruin, and maybe even particularly what killers do you cleanse Ruin against, right? For killers that have good tunnel out potential, not cleansing Ruin at the start seems a bit dangerous, because trying to deal with Ruin in a 3v1 situation is damn near impossible, because you're going to have so many instances where every survivor is occupied and gens are just passively regressing, right? That being said, any kind of analysis I was about to make goes completely out the window, because under Ultra's nose, the survivors are actually able to get rid of that Pentimento, so no slowdown, no perks aside from an agitation here. So Ultra having a little bit of a peak in the early game right now. Phenom looks like is going to be going for the 1-for-1, letting Cthulhu hang for quite a while there. Did end up hitting second stage. Cthulhu is going to be the victim of a tunnel out now with Phenom on the floor. Going to be seeing how long you can last in this chase. You have the bounce landing, but you don't have the means to get onto that high ground to actually use it. And now you have a power to deal with, slowly dragging along the floor. That might just spell disaster for Cthulhu right now. Going over to the Evil, not going to be worth a whole lot right there. Not entirely sure how strong a position this is for the survivors right now. Cthulhu is going to be leaving the game relatively early.
Yeah, I mean, the threat of the Executioner M2 made it so that Cthulhu just greeted everything, didn't drop that Shack pallet for fear of getting M2'd, and he runs to a corner where, unfortunately for him, he does not have any filler pallets to play and dies in that dead zone. We are at 3 gens, and this is a situation where the cleanse of the Ruin, of course, pays off, not just because the Pentimento got broken, but because of the backup options you can bring for Ruin. Pentimento punishes you the most in the early game when you're camping someone out, when you're tunneling someone out, slowing down that progress, forcing a secondary objective. But on a Wrecker's Yard game especially, Eruption would be the backup to Ruin that's most punishing in that 3v1, especially in a 3-gen. Now Ultra operating with essentially no slowdown, only that agitation. Now the chase resuming onto Sweet Child, and he does have a pretty decent setup, but against the Executioner, the zoning here is just unreal. The tag will come in, and Sweet Child will just be running to the corner of the map, and we'll have to see what kind of gen progress survivors have elsewhere. They did pop one relatively recently. The Lithe is coming in to buy Sweet Child some distance, but as we've seen previously, this portion of the map is not very strong for Sinner survivors. The RNG being a little bit unlucky here. Good filler power, but he's gonna have to wait out.
Oh,
M2, but it goes through on the stun anyway, and that is the down onto Sweet Child and the Torment on him as well. The agitation hook will come in, and now Sweet Child can be vulnerable for a chop later on in the game.
The idea was good, to be perfectly honest. The idea there was very good from Sweet Child to try and go for the stun. You were zoned out in an awkward position at not a particularly strong pallet, right? So that was probably the best option you had. Unfortunately, the execution from the Executioner, just living up to the name there, being a little bit stronger there, getting the M2 off just in the nick of time to catch Sweet Child. Now going to be on a hook, also going to be on the elevate position, so there's only one way in for the survivors. It's going to be a bit easier to defend, and actually that gen just going to be popped almost seemingly right in Ultra's face right there. Looking at what kind of 3-gen you have to work with, it's not an amazing one. They are all at least on one side of the map. You have pretty good visibility on the gens, but remember, Executioner, you can't really get to them all that easily, right? Phenom is going to be locked up in the corner of this map though. Sweet Child is going to be unhooked, but does have that second wind, so isn't actually going to need to be healed. Bucky isn't going to need to spend time going for a crazy long reset here or anything like that. Can just focus back on the generation along with Sweet Child. Phenom is going to be falling, however, so we're going to be getting another fresh hook here for Ultra against a killer which isn't particularly good at getting a lot of stages. Every single fresh hook could be worth a lot.
Oh yeah, and Ultra in this position knowing, okay, we're probably going to endgame, I'm probably not going to be able to 4K, playing for freshes is really helpful for the win condition for your team later on in the game, and you do have a really strong just camp potential as Executioner. You can just hold that M2 on the hook and get a double hit off the pole. Makes it very difficult to actually get a save for free. Even with 2 people, it's at best a 1-for-1, so the more unique hooks you've gotten, the more saves you can just secure in the end game. Ultra looking to hold these last 3 gens though. This is not a bad spread for him, and his hook is deep in the corner of one of these, and I think a lot of the resources around here have been used. with this pallet being dropped, it's a little bit safer for Bucky, who's just going to run away from that loop, trying to not get attacked by the M2, but will exchange that for an M1 here in just a second. Where is the chase going to continue? Is Ultra going to continue chase? Will he hold this area? And that does seem to be the case. He knows, I have no reason to leave this area. I want to hold these gens. This shack is being worked very closely. Phenom getting unhooked in the distance. Ultra should be going straight back there to make sure that the survivors do not get away from his territory. He's got an LT, and that's just fine for him.
With the hook being in the corner, it also means that they have to walk into Ultra for quite a while for any hook to potentially escape here, right? Phenom is able to make quite a lot of distance with that initial haste coming off of the unhook, however, so is going to escape, fight to see another day right now. And you can see the survivors just going to continually, incrementally pressure out these gens. This is where the investment earlier to get rid of both. What the? Can I finish my sentence, Ultra? Can I finish my sentence, big lad? Are you going to explain that one to us? My goodness. Okay, well, that's a hell of a hit coming through there. If you needed something to get yourself some extra momentum, that's going to be doing it. As you do actually try and pressure Phenom off the hook right there. There should be just enough time to finish this generator. It is another fresh hook coming through onto Bucky and dropping the shack pallet for good measure as well. Barely dodging that one through. And now, as the Executioner here, you can just kind of play the basement, secure your last few stages onto Bucky. But you're not going to be doing it, actually. You're going to be trying to get through onto Phenom anyway. So you are going to allow the opportunity for the unhook to come through. The gate is being opened in the meantime as well, but Phenom doesn't quite have the distance here. And this could have been a little bit of a beef from the survivors, potentially. Sweet Child, now injured, not in a position to save, is going to have to leave. That's going to be a clean, sudden fire 4 or 5 stages going over to Ultra here.
Yeah, Sweet Child, being pushed out means this game goes from an 8 stages on that basement camp to a full 10. A 3K10 for Executioner is a very, very high stage result. I think Cynic is going to be really happy with that going into the next game. In a very rough position for Jason to try and recover. We would normally see, 7 stages at most, and we got a whole extra survivor dead for that. Also, all 4 freshes. Yeah, that was a tragic turn of events for Sinners at the end.
Yeah, and for all the stats people, that's massively above average. The average hook stages that an Executioner gets a game is 5.5, so Ultra nearly doubling that here, pulling out a particularly strong performance for a quite weaker killer here. So definitely putting the ball into their court here. Gonna see how this is gonna be matched from the other side shortly. We're gonna have a quick break and then we're going to be back very, very soon.
Welcome back, folks. After a 3K10 in our previous trial, it is now Phenom's time to shine, aiming for what is essentially a 4K against Cynic on this Executioner pick. We'll immediately see some survivors running around this tile in the corrupted gens. Gonna try and get a fast first chase onto them. He does see a Meg in his lobby, so there is hope for that fast chase, but it will be a chase onto Quentin instead, so a little bit unlucky in terms of target selection, as the chase is not yet triggered, but we know survivors are there, and a crow in the distance means we've got eyes on 3 survivors roughly. Ruin Undying coming in, some of that Ruin penting Phenom, really just wanting to keep his Ruin up as long as possible and survivors. And here's our chase onto Lusty at the fun bus. No, it is in fact the Meg, so will we have a Meg moment, or will we have a juicy chase? Edgar was really thinking.
Later to explain to me what the hell a Meg moment is, but for the time being, getting tagged up seems to maybe fit the definition. I don't entirely know what you're talking about, and neither does anyone, because that's going to be hit coming through. Not Jason, not quite who we're expecting, but you know what? Sure, fair play to you, big lad. Getting an early down, but an early blind as well. Being ripped from the shoulders of our killer right here, and this buys a little bit more time for the survivors a little bit. Nibby is going to be tormented up, however. Going to be dropping the shack pallet, forcing the break means that you can make a bit more distance here. The torment means that you are capable of being absolutely brutalized later on in the game, and Nindy's just going to be running it all the way to the corner. Doesn't have any particularly great features to work with here, just this little truck window, which isn't particularly great to play around, but it's going to be going down in the corner, kind of reminiscent to how Sinners started their Survivor round, going down in the corner as well. So the start is about the same. Could have been significantly worse for the Survivors here, but Angels did get a nice little flashy save to delay that down just a bit longer.
Yeah, and Angels with that Xeno School gameplay, hovering the chase with the beam, with that sprint burst, saving Ninny, buying a lot more time for his team. Not seeing, okay, there's that first gen popping, surely a second, even possibly, now it should only be 2 that are along the way. There's that second gen. First chase being a lot of time. Keep an eye on where this hook is relative to the gens. We also see Angels coming in for that pull. Should be able to get it, but it might be an M2 tag. No, the unhook not coming in just yet. They want to delay that tunnel out. If Ninny were to be unhooked in Phenom's face, that would be a much quicker tunnel out than what we normally get. So Phenom going to have to hover here, try and let Ruin do its work, but this will buy Cynic Survivors time to do a little bit more generators along the way, as Angels is just pressuring for this pull. Phenom possibly going to commit here, but no, not really. Just wants to make sure he doesn't, that he doesn't lose this hook. He really wants to hold on to this.
I mean, it's going to be staying until, at the very least, second stage, right? You only have about 10 more seconds of hang time to reach that. Another gen is going to be flying through in the distance. But now, if you look at the gen spread, because Phenom has this entire side of the map locked down, the final gen spread is going to be very good for our Executioner here today, regardless of what really happens, right? In a perfect world, you can have the Shack Pallet, the 1, and then the 2 by the hill. Even if any of those go, you still have another generator just nearby as well. Residual Undying value, actually, going to be tagging up exactly where that Survivor is for the time being. I'm now going to continue this chase to the other corner of the map. We're going to be seeing at what point the unhook wants to come through. It's going to be now. And this is actually out of range, and the blind as well tried to come through to prevent the M2, but Phenom was not phased by it at all. Can hit these trick shots blind. Doesn't even need the eyeballs. Going to be doing this all with a gigantic pyramid on the head as well. Angel's trying so hard to get some attention. Look at me right now, please. But it's not going to be happening. Laser focus here onto Ninny, is liable to get thrown out of the game. Remember, he's tormented, so that final judgment can come through. The instant execution to just get Ninny out of the game. Nice and clean. Angel still wants some attention and is finally going to be getting it. Buys time for Ninny to get a life on through, make a bit more distance in the corner of the map. You'd be interested to think, what are the other survivors doing? They're taking this time to work on the generators. Phenom does not give a monkey about those generators. Not a single one. Just going to be continuing onwards to get Ninny through. It has this pallet here and going to be playing it pretty damn well as well. Ninny going to be executed, beautifully censored by our observers there, so thank you very much, Rats, so we didn't have to see anything too graphic in our, murder simulator here today. And Angels is injured up, going to be going down in this corner as well. We're just hoping for enough time for Lusty and Ultra to bully a couple more gens out.
And we saw a headless Demogorgon in the first match, and now we've got a pyramid head without the head, so I guess it's just a pyramid now.
He's just head, or pyramid even.
Yeah, so we do have a fourth generator being completed, but the Cynic Survivors are in a dire situation. They're going to need to get 3 stages out this door. The slugs coming in from Phenom might be a real problem for them, especially when that 3v1 started. The hits being taken to protect Ninny meant that there's a bunch of injured survivors and a bunch of punished. Lusty barely dodging out on that M2 on the fun bus. Very strong tile. Phenom is going to leave, possibly looking to hook Angels or find Ultra. We don't know just yet. There is Ultra working on a gen. Very high progress. There will be real ruin value here. If Phenom's able to cut off Ultra, we can slowly grind out this gen progress with Ruin. But it all depends on what Lusty's able to do here. Angels has gotten picked up, and Phenom could be punished for greeting if these survivors are able to make a recovery. Ultra just holding W away from the attack, does dodge out on it. Phenom not committing here, just looking after these gens.
And you would, wouldn't you? You still have your Ruin up, you still have your Undying up as well. You have a great 3-gen. You have no reason to be leaving this area. Angels is going to be sprint bursting through, but your legs not quite quick enough for that one there, big lad. You did see Lusty trying to pressure out that generator in the meantime, but it didn't work out. Angels has been felled, is going to be going right back onto the hook with agitation as well, so this doesn't even take a whole lot of time out of Phenom's incredibly busy schedule here. And we're seeing a pretty commanding position to get this 4K through. Ideally, you need to get rid of the Ruin Undying, right? With the gens being so close, with agitation here as well, the bump does actually come through, and Angels is able to body block the hit there for Lusty, who's just going to be running even deeper into the map. Ultra is now being sort of uncontested here. If someone was going to keep progressing the generators, yeah, it was going to be Ultra right there. Go for the blind shot, doesn't quite make it. I do wonder whether Pyramid Head has gotten his Pyramid back.
Lusty running deeper into that pocket gave Phenom the heads up. Okay, if Ultra's on a gen, it will be that Shack gen. That is the case, and we've got Angels also progressing this in the corner. No, it was Lusty this whole time. So possibly Angels and Ultra have run off to reset each other as Lusty uses his balance landing to get away from this gen spread. Phenom might be comfortable committing to this now, expecting the reset, but if the survivors are just doubling this gen, he could hold on to it, or he could lose it rather. So Phenom is just holding on, finds the reset, pre-drop pallet, but it will be another chase onto Angels. Ultra runs off, and this could be Angel's second hook very quickly, but Lusty progressing gens this whole time. We might see this last gen popping, and the question is going to be, if they're able to pop this last gen, how many stages do they get out for, as this is going to be the down onto Angels. Surely Phenom's going to leave and try and pressure those gens. Shack gen at 50%, but that hill gen that Lusty was on should be the one that's in Phenom's sights pre-leaving, but we can hear just how much progress that gen has.
Yeah, Lusty in an ideal world can rotate to grab Angels here, but isn't going to be so lucky. Is instead going to be using... Actually, no, still exhausted. Isn't going to be able to use the bounce landing to make any distance. Is going to eat that punishment of the damned right there, taking Lusty to the injured state right now. We still do have this 4-lane to work with, but 4 lanes against a killer who can, you know, just hit you through straightaways like that is incredibly dangerous right here. And our favorite killer of the game, Head, is going to be now putting Lusty on their shoulder, putting him on the hook as well. And Ultra and Angels weren't able to do anything in that time. Ultra had to rotate for the heal, and they are actually going to be resetting in the corner here. I'm sorry. Imagine just being in this world and just seeing a headless dude with a gigantic cleaver walking menacingly at you. This must be like an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, it's like that one, the Headless Horseman story, you know? He's been
Something
added
like
to DBDLeague, our favorite childhood story or something.
It's all that weird dream I
had. But, yeah, like, this is such a commanding position for Phenom. The fact that he's able to just keep putting survivors on this same hook over and over again, when they die even remotely close to this gen spread, the survivors are slowly losing their hook stages. Phenom on that way to the 11 that he needs, and there's no sign that the generators are going to be popping because the survivors are just spending all of their time trying to reset each other, trying to unhook each other, and they're just not able to get gen progress for that. The chases are too quick. And possibly a pallet save. It will come in. Ultra can smash it also to get out of there. And Lusty should have his balance landing back up, so he will be playing this hill to get away from here. This could be the recovery they need. But the M2 hits them just before the bounce landing gets him away. Dying on another pallet, but there's not a teammate around here. Angel's working that Shack gen all the while. Ultra trying to pressure this Lusty's gen. Angels is at 75%. If Phenom decides that Ultra is a threat here, this could be a problem, but he is going to suspect for Angel, so we will be holding on to this gen just now. Angels with a 99 sprint burst into the wall will lose a little bit of distance. Will that cost him his life? And zoning, yes, it will. That will be down onto Angels and possibly his final hook. So now we will have Ultra and Lusty as the last 2 survivors for Cynic standing, as Phenom is carrying Angels into that basement. No, gonna leave him here. Is he worried that there might be a double on Lusty gen? We don't know, but that will be a drop onto Angels, and now Phenom might not be able to pick up Angels anymore. This could be a problem later in the game. Lusty running away to the bus will mean Phenom is going to make sure Ultra doesn't get this gen done. These gens are just so close to each other. Oh,
yeah, this is This is really difficult to deal with as the survivor side right now, and it all comes back to the Ruin Undying combination. You can have a really strong early game by just kind of bullying them through, ignoring the regression, because it's not as direct as something such as a Pain Resonance, or a Pop, or an Eruption, or something like that. There's nothing that's forcing you to go deal with that threat instantly. But in the late game, with a 3-gen like this, with 3 survivors remaining, it is impossible to come through. We do actually get some cheeky aura reading there. Could have been a nice play for a hit, but Phenom thinking better of it is going to be focusing on what matters truly most to his heart. That is going to be the generators right now. Actually willing to go deep into the other corner of the map to bully out Angels, confident that the other gens are not going to be too progressed, but after going for that stray hit, is going to be checking on him back and actually baiting Angels in just a little bit. You flew too close to the sun there, didn't you, bud? And you're going to be eating a down for it as well. And now Phenom decides, okay, now I've got my down. Now I'm in a pretty decent position. Let's go have a look at the generators. Go on a little world tour, why don't we? But the last one actually gets completed in their face.
This is 6 ages so far. Phenom needs 11, so that slugging is going to have to be his game plan here. A lot of 50s for Ultra, but this should be the blind does come through. That might buy Ultra some time. Lusty can be picking up Angels as well. Angels is not worth that many hooks though. They should probably just leave him to die. He's only worth 1 hook, but they need to get Ultra out. They need to get Lusty out. If either of these survivors die, I don't think Ultra, actually yeah, Ultra's the fresh hook. They need him out of this game. Or they need both Lusty and Angels. They need 3 stages out.
Remember that the primary win condition is gens. After that, it's hook stages, then it's fresh hooks, right? Mm-hmm. So it is, but it's almost impossible because I believe that to get 11 stages, you do need to hook Ultra, right? Yeah. And you would get the last fresh hook stage anyway, right? But he's going to be slugging here, trying to get Lusty and Angels. If they're able to escape, this would be so close yet so far right now. Angel's able to get out. Where's Lusty? Actually going to the other side of the map to pick up Ultra right now. Phenom could be letting this one slip at the last second.
Yeah, Angels being out is not enough. They need to get either Ultra or Lusty out of this game. Ultra getting reset means he can just beeline for that door and he's out. Yeah. Lusty can even die for him. That is the survivor that is spotted here. This is not who you want to find. But you kind of have to go for it. And keep in mind, Lusty has hope. This will be even longer of a chase here, but this is surely buying Ultra enough time to just get out. He does not apparently have it. Might have been Adrenaline as well denying it. I'm not sure. But yeah, Ultra is out the door. That will be 4 stages out for Cynic. That's enough to take this win in the Executioner set. Honestly, a nail biter. I was really surprised to see that last gen pop, and Cynic Survivors clutching it out in this set that they chose.
My goodness. Well, that's goodness gracious. That was a hell of a first matchup. A hell of a first set here in our Sinners versus Cynic matchup. Cynic going to be clutching that one out at the end with some pretty strong survival performance. Phenom maybe just committing a little too hard there, even though it was a very quick down onto Angels. Going for that down might just not have been the correct play there. Obviously, this is, with the benefit of hindsight, it is 2020 after all, but Cynic currently 1-0 up in this set. For the dream of Sinners and their 18k iridescent shards per player, they're going to need to pull out the reverse sweep here. Is that going to happen? Come back after the break to find out. Hello everyone, welcome back. Cole and I were just having a friendly discussion as to what a kilometer is, but instead we can focus on something a little more present, a little more in the moment right now. Going to be Phenom running out on the Nurse, kill that we see quite often on the Cole Tower, and in the last matchup we actually saw outs from both sides. Cole, is that something that is like potentially possible here, or is that more of an exception rather than the rule?
I think Nurse is a killer we normally expect 4K1s on, but in recent times, I think teams have gotten a lot better at playing against the Nurse. It's a more of a macro killer to my mind now. I think, however, one of the most important things in any Nurse set is how that early game goes. is someone caught out stealthing, and in particular is the Deliverance player caught out stealthing, that will be a tag onto Lusty, not quite respecting the blink range of the Nurse. Remember, folks, if you are in her terror radius, she can tag you, and that will be a tap onto Lusty. First, one set of blinks, and then a second set of blinks right after. Even the overcome, getting him away from the top side of the map, but will it buy enough time for Cynic to crank out this top mid-gen? They really need to get that one done.
There simply isn't a world when they can't, right? But the hook actually taken with agitation so close to that generator, and with Ruin Undying as well, they're actually not going to be able to complete it. So first stage coming through, no gens done. They were banking on doubling up this gen. They do not have any split pressure, and they also now have an injury coming through onto Ultra. Now, if you want to see the silver lining, Lusty is the DS survivor, right? So if anyone's going to be tunneled out first, it's going to be there. But you can't give 3 inches away like this. It's going to affect your ability to actually do anything about Lusty on the hook. You're going to need to spend time resetting, which is going to cause Ruin to regress the generators even more. It's all a matter of time, and it feels very obvious to be giving 3 injuries away, especially because now, if you're Ultra here, you can just go down. And all of a sudden, you can kiss your hopes of getting 5 gens done, maybe even just kiss your hopes of getting, 4 3 generators done.
Live by the ping, die by the ping, and Cynic survivors are in a very, very brutal situation. They had a topside 5 gen, they've broken one of them, but there's still 4 gens remaining around this main building. Lusty's still on hook, he's been left to go second, and although the reset came in to pick up on the Ultra, we do also have a little bit of undying value knowing there's a survivor around main building. This means Phenom knows where everyone is. They're all being corralled topside. There is no one here to save Lusty. He might just die on his first hook, because anyone trying to cross this side of the map will be in Phenom's sights. And a little bit of a weird build adaptation from Cynic is their choice of exhaustion for Deliverance. We've been seeing for the longest time, okay, Deliverance, you get sprint first. We started seeing when it started, you go overcome instead. But now Nini is the Deliverance player with Lithe, which helps you hide that perk a little bit. You can control when your Lithe triggers. You're not going to show your sprint first or your overcome, but it does mean when Nini takes his hit, he's not able to safely go for that 1-for-1. Lusty is going to die on hook here, as Nini is just going to basically have a 1-for... No, they do get Lusty off the hook!
Ho ho ho, at the very last second, the team play just about clutching up for Sinners there, but barely. It was by the skin of their teeth. Hey, at least you got maximum hang time on Lusty, right? Lusty is going to have decisive strikes, so is going to be falling here, but this could even be weighted out just a bit by Nurse. Because Nini is so nearby, you can afford to go put them on a hook and then return to Lusty. It's not likely that the decisive strike would have completely worn off by that time, but Lusty is going to have very few options in terms of what to do with this, right? Has a shack to work with, but it's just a shack, right? And against a lot of killers, that's a lot. And against the Nurse, that means, well, if you want evidence of how much it means, look at your screen, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, unfortunately, the main value of DS is being in a position where you can trigger your exhaustion and get more distance, but Lusty with the overcome really has nothing to work with in that regard, so the DS only buying a couple seconds, but not really a whole lot of value. Nini also not having Deliverance because he wasn't able to get that means no value on that perk either, and now Phenom coming back to the main building side of the map to try and hold these gens. We will see Survivor upstairs. Do they not know they've spotted an Undying? They very well might not be. This is a tag onto Angels. I think they're balanced landing if they're working this gen, but this can be a very, very difficult situation. That's a down on the Angels. Well, Ultra's last ever standing. And he has to be very careful not to get spotted by Undying too.
I have no idea what the hell that was. Phenom having the ears of a damn hawk right now. Getting a hook through onto Angels as well could instantly get back to the other side of the map and being pressure out Ultra and Nini at the same time as well. Still has so many perks to work with. Ruin going to be constantly regressing these generators, so it's currently nobody working on any gens right now, right? And Phenom is in such a commanding position because you can focus out Nini in this corner should you so please, force Ultra to rotate all the way to the other side of the map just to get Angels off the hook and buy yourself even more time. A 4k3 is actually quite realistic for the Cynic, for Phenom right here. And if that were to be the case, then Sinners would have absolutely no chance of seeing their precious 18,000 iridescent shards which we've been harping on about for so long. Finding Angels injured up as well, just off of the hook. Going to be getting that one very quickly. Briefly hesitating. Is there a survivor nearby for the pallet save? Not going to be the case. And now you can just put Angels right back in the center of the map, put yourself in a good position to continue to stay close to these generators here. Maybe Nini over in the very other corner of the map and maybe get an extra generator done for the side here. Can already spot Ultra going for the under. We've seen a surprising amount of undying value this game, but not in the way you would necessarily expect. It works regardless. I'm certainly not complaining if I'm Phenom, and now you have Angel running away. Ultra did get tagged up. That's not the target you want. Getting to a little bit of a 50-50 there. And it is actually won out by Angels, but you're not able to make a whole lot of distance off of that. You just go down in the corner. That's 2 kills coming through now. Only 2 generators done for it. Can you maybe get a third?
Yeah, I mean, that undying value is real. I remember a game last season, it was Wispy playing Nurse for Cynic, and he brought Undying strictly for the aura reading. No other hexes, just Undying straight up, because it's one of the best aura reading options you have on Nurse. That is a 3rd generator being completed, but with Angel's dead, Lusty dead, Ultra in his sights, and Nini being the unbreakable survivor, the last survivor you want to be the last one standing, a little bit tragic, but Phenom will just go ahead and pick up Ultra, and 4K2 is a little bit unfortunate if Nini's not able to pop the last remaining generator. Actually, Phenom deciding to just go for Nini anyway, leaving Ultra on the ground, and this might be a tragic result, but you have to keep in mind, we're Americans. We're not used to healthcare. The nurse is going to be difficult to deal with. You know, we're just lucky we dodged the doctor set too. That's all I'm saying. Cut the boys some slack.
Americans when they added healthcare to the game, and that's when DBD started going downhill for the North American region as well. I mean, I as an Englishman, I'm not a big fan of the Unknown I'm not a big fan of the Unknown because he has better teeth than me, right? So that's not ideal either. Nini is going to be dropping to the low ground here. Does have life. He's going to use that to juice just a little bit, but yeah, it was a foregone conclusion. You were able to at least bully 1 extra generator out here from the side of Sinners, but this one wasn't particularly close. Phenom was large and in charge from the very start. It was all just about damage control on the survivor side, right? They were able to control it a little bit, but there's only so much that you can do, right?
So the ray of light for Cynic here is, we saw week 1 of this. We had Elysium Sinners, Nurse, Phenom got a 4K4 against Elysium, and then Sinner Survivors also got 4K4. There is hope for Cynic, but there's more importantly hope for the viewers, because this is a very steep win con for Angels to meet on the Nurse, and that means, speaking of that Unknown, really good chance that we're going to be able to see that as a tiebreaker set. I know we all would love to see that, as Phenom opting to just bleed the survivors out. I guess there's a worry here that Nini might have Deliverance or Unbreakable or something. I'm not 100% sure, but remember folks, for this season we have changed the rules to where bleed outs will give you full credit. You're not going to miss out on that fresh hook. You're going to get all credit for it. You can just let survivors bleed, and Phenom will be going for that, but that will leave us with, I don't know, a little bit more than 2 minutes to just chat a little bit while we wait for this to close up. You got anything you want to talk about, Egdar?
I mean, like in general, about DBD, about my day today, about what I had for breakfast, about the fact that I signed a new work contract, about the fact that I get sad sometimes, about the fact that I am probably going to go to the gym when I'm done here today, or anything else you would even like to talk about.
I was not expecting that. I'm a level with you, Chief.
Okay, how about this one then? In what situations, because obviously you're kind of more of the expert here, the one with the big brain, I just make the funny sounds on camera. For the case of Ruin, right? What's the play versus getting rid of it nice and early, or just letting it stay there and bullying out the gens instead? Is it dependent on the killer that you're facing, or how well the game is going necessarily, or if you're in a bad 3-gen situation, or anything like that?
I think the most important thing to keep in mind is Pentimento allowed or not? Because Pentimento can be an enormous punish if it's in play, and it does really change where you can have your death spots, I think. most of the time when the killer is bringing Ruin, they're bringing a backup perk for it. They're bringing Pentimento, they're bringing Undying, they're bringing Eruption. Now the question is going to be, you don't know, except for Undying, in this case, like you're going to get the notification, oh yeah, the killer's Undying, your aura is remote totem. You'll know Undying's in play, but you won't know if Pentimento's in play, you won't know if Eruption's in play, you won't know if Pop's in play, and you're kind of making a gamble about that threat and if you want to deal with it. And they're each threatening in their own ways. Pop is a lot more punishing if the killer's trying to hold a specific gen. Eruption's more threatening if you're down to a 3 gen in the 4v1, and you might be worried, what if I get to that situation, even if I'm not in it right now? At the same time, we saw in the previous set, Cynic, knowing that the Executioner had Ruin Undying, opted to leave it up altogether. They knew there wasn't Pentimento in play, they knew there wasn't Eruption in play. So I feel like most teams would rather just deal with Ruin over anything else. It's not as big a deal. In this case, we even saw it was the Undying that was causing more value than Ruin was.
Okay, actually really interesting that teams are more willing to put up with a Ruin than they are a Pentimento. Of course, Pentimento is absolutely massive slowdown, don't get me wrong, 30%, but just kind of the passive effect of Ruin in the 3v1 to mean that gens, at least with the Pentimento, your gen progress is still permanent, right? At least you are still progressing gens. You can buy time with strong chases, stealthing effectively, etc., and get permanent progress on the generators. But the Ruin seems really rough to deal with. But thank you very much for the insight. We are going to be going over to the Unknown set. The series all tied up 1-1. Still hope for those iridescent shards, but they're going to be leaving our grasp. But still within Sinner's grasp, hopefully. We'll see after the break where they end up getting them.
Alright folks, we are back with some more Nurse gameplay, and we have a very spicy pick that Hex Face the Darkness on Angels. We'll see if that pays off in this game. He has a steep link on the knee, a 4k2 in the previous game, looking to get a 4k3 or better to secure a 2-0, but more than likely we're going to that Unknown set, which I know we all want to see. Sweet Child being the first chaser on the track, dodging out on that first set of blinks, and getting a pallet stun on the second. Not the start that you want to see. Angels will continue this chase, getting a little bit disoriented about where Sweet Child might be, and it looks like he's going to leave, and we will have survivors working on this gen in the middle of the map, and we'll be pressuring them instead. Julio now taking chase and will be the first tag of the game. Now that Face of Darkness will start to kick in, and that Ruin, the survivors will now be really incentivized to look for those photos.
Yeah, exactly. No Pentimento being played here, so not going to have to worry about anything too bad in case they do end up getting cleansed here. And it seemed like a little bit of impatience in the chase onto Sweet Child, not waiting for a second blink to come back at Shaq so that you could, just wait out the pallet drop and then blink over and get the hit there. Kind of just blinking to thin air to try and find Sweet Child, who runs to the other side of the map. However, all was forgiven when you were able to just instantly down Cthulhu here, right in the center of the map as well, so you kind of have that long reach to pressure out a whole host of different regions. You're also very nearby to your Ruin Totem as well, so you know that isn't going to be vanishing anytime soon either. For Angels, it's just a matter of, pitching a tent right here, waiting until at least second stage, and then deciding what you want to be doing from there. But remember that you have such a harsh win condition to overcome as the killer here, right? You could not let 3 generators get completed for... You actually does end up hitting Sweet Child on the hook. Phenom is able to get that. It's going to be the 1-for-1, and Crulio is going to now start taking the chase on the mean side here. But as I was saying before, you have such a harsh win condition to overcome if you are the Nurse right here. If 4 gens get completed, then you've lost, and we're going over to see the Unknown.
Well, Nancy has nothing to overcome because she's got Lion instead, but that pre-drop Shack pallet will give her the distance she needs for it. But the survivors were cranking out 2 separate topside gens this entire time, getting that 4k3 very, very shortly. Julio buying enough time over here. If no one got me, the Macmillan Edge Rocks got me. Am I right? Well, apparently not.
I'd hope that someone has you. If we're relying on the Macmillan Edge Rocks for emotional support and comfort in these trying times, then Jesus Christ, I'm sorry, man. That being said, things are going pretty decently for the survivors right now. Fudo was able to take a reasonably long chase here, and is actually going to try and be putting... Is going to be trying to put the survivor in the basement. Is going to be successful, and it renders a clean save here almost impossible. Even if it does come through, it's not going to be one that Cthulhu can easily escape from. The nurse is just going to stick around here and actually just mentally, I don't know, downloaded Bucky's location there. And that's going to be a nice injure, especially because Bucky doesn't have anything spectacular to work with right now, but is actually going to be juicing the corner of that wall. You don't need anything against a nurse aside from, you know, a single corner wall, right? Does spot the survivor going for the unhook here, so is going to be returning to get the, maybe the injure through onto Phenom, and actually going to try and just bully heal Cthulhu here. Is going to be successful with it, and then hops the locker as well, just to buy even more time. Delaying the time out for a bit longer allows Cthulhu to use that life to create some more distance. You see the nurse trying to zone Cthulhu out, has forced him into the edge map right now, and now it's time to juice. How much juice do you have? Da 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 da. Absolutely none. Unfortunate, but you were in a very rough position there if you were Cthulhu as well, so all is forgiven to a degree. One more generator gets completed, that's a tie. Two more, it's a win here for Sinners, and we go to our last one.
I'm kind of surprised we're seeing the level of altruism that we are. Normally, when you have a win con like this, you're like, all right, camp this guy all you want. We're just going to pop the gens we need. But now in the 3v1 with 3 gens remaining, yes, it looks like that the main building gen will probably pop for this. That will bring us to a tie and force that tiebreak set anyway. But Sinners were easily in a spot to play for just a straight up win here. And look at this gen spread. You can pop main, still be at that tie con. And Angels has all of these gens bottom side with his totem in the middle of it. So it's going to be very rough to try and actually break this gen hold from Angels with only 3 survivors. Good luck.
Yeah, we are getting into, as they like to say in the industry, squeaky bum time for both the for the killer right here, Angels right now. You've already secured your draw as the survivors right now, and you have 3 healthy survivors, and you don't really have a clean gen split here either. There's potential for a 3 gen, but that would be far too late for Angels, right? And this 4 gen isn't all that, right? And also these survivors are hiding quite effectively as well. You are able to find someone sniffing around on this generator over here, and so are going to be able to pressure that one out. At the very least, you do have the benefit of Nurse that you can get between these gens relatively quickly, and Ruin still being up. Well, that is the most perfectly timed casting Nurse I have done in my life. I actually deserve a medal for that. Goodness me. But now that Ruin is gone, being ran into the corner of the map here is Phenom, and you're also not able to get the hit through. This is buying so much time for Sweet Child and Bucky to sit on the other side of the map. They could be opting to split pressure here, but in the meantime as well, they could also just be 2-manning a gen to secure their win condition. Either way, it works out for them.
Yeah, one thing we're going to be seeing throughout the remainder of this match is the weakness of Nurse. And I know that sounds weird to say, Nurse often the killer people put as like the #1 in the game, but in a competitive setting, Billy now and Blight, especially from in the past, were considered better than Nurse simply because they have the actual map mobility. When you're playing Nurse, you can use both of your blinks to get to the gen, but then you don't have any chase power, and if the survivor has just 3 left, you're not actually that scary. So the survivors here in this 3v1, if they're playing very safe, relieving their generators, not getting over 3 tags, can actually really punish Nurse for having to choose when she uses her mobility, because she's not really that much more mobile in a sustained sense than a normal M1 would be. Sweet Child taking that tag is just going to have to leave. Now with that Face of Darkness being activated, this might start returning to other survivors. Bucky now being in his sights, but this gen is dangerously close to being popped. Ruin is no longer in the picture, so Eruption will start to come in, and we'll see if that pays off. Bucky and Phenom both screaming thanks to Face of Darkness. Now the decision for them will be, okay, what do? Do we go for the reset? Do we go for the gen? Do we go for the totem? As Angels blink and swallowed by the wall. Okay, 4th gen pop. Sinners is officially winning this set.
Yeah, there it is. We do have to give some big props there. It's also kind of interesting to note that Face of Darkness actually synergizes decently with this Nurse's purple add-on. Not entirely familiar with the name of it, but because it works when on survivors who are outside of the killer's terror radius, when you are undetectable, there's no terror radius, meaning that there's just going to be screaming, right? Or at least I think that's how it works. Someone can fact check me on this one. Can you fact check me on that one, Cole?
Yeah, so when you injure a survivor, the perk activates, and then the screaming happens periodically outside of your terror radius until you down the survivor. And then when you down the survivor, the perk deactivates.
But
now,
also the question of if you're undetectable.
Yeah, so because if you're undetectable, they're not in terror radius, so it does trigger.
Yeah, there we are then. Pretty energy there. Angel's going to have going to be celebrating to a degree. There were even firecrackers out from the survivors, very generous of them, right here today. But going to be bullying that one all the way through.
You do get your 4K, but the 4 generators were completed for the
Survivor side, so it doesn't particularly matter, right? You're very happy with this as the CYN survivors. Angels can at least take some solace in the fact of at least you made it competitive. 4K1, 4K2. It may not sound like a big difference after it's only one generator, but considering the general flow of DBDL matches and the fact that on S-tier killers there's probably going to be 2 generators completed before the first kill comes through, and that's when kind of the match really begins and gets into the, you know, the more trying times, the later stages of the match. Then it... What?
Phenom with the Adam Francis teachable perk Deliverance.
Yes, the Adam Francis teachable perk Deliverance, yes. Which, I'm not entirely sure how Adam learned to keep himself off a hook. But a lot of, like, the teachable perk concepts are really strange, right? Like, do you think that, like, I don't know, like some of them make sense, but do you also think that Meg was, like, teaching the other survivors around the campfire to just, like, have adrenaline, you know? Or, like, teaching them to, like, I don't know, run? Yeah. I feel like the survivors here all can run pretty well, right? That's kind of why they're here.
Meg at the campfire, like, get in, losers, we're going to track and field. No, but Phenom,
I like the idea that she's just drawn, like, a massive 400-meter track in a circle around the campfire, and they just spend all their time running through. Or in the case of, I don't know, for, like, Jake, like, for Iron Will, it's just, like, beating the hell out of all the other survivors and just, like, hitting them harder if they make any noise, you know?
Yeah, but hear me
It's
out.
like teaching them to be quiet.
If you've ever done, like run tests and everything, right? It really is a giant loop.
Yeah.
You may be onto something here. But speaking of being onto something, that will be Sinners.
What are we talking about?
That will be filling time as the survivors get put on hooks, all that. You know the drill. But Sinners will be taking that set back. It's 1-1, so that unknown set will be coming up, and that will be our decider between Sinners and Cynic to see who will be, you know, avoiding possibly that 10th place standing.
Well, this is the tiebreaker that we have been waiting for. Cynic versus Sinners, North versus South America. And we have Ultra here playing the unknown, resembling the average Texan resident, as you do here. And going to be tagging up Phenom very early with a weakened as well. Also going to be catching Bucky on this corner. Goes for a creative shot, but doesn't quite land it. Not quite landing the Kobe that we would like to at this stage of the game. Build is nothing that we are unfamiliar with. The Ruin Pentimento Undying combo, very popular. It is sort of feast or famine. You don't have a lot of backup options in case they're all gone, but you have 2 potential opportunities to be proccing your Pentimento, which is always going to be especially valuable, right? Corrupt, again, just kind of being standard base kit. Some killers do opt for the Agitation instead of the Undying, just so that you can protect your Pentimento totem when it gets played down a little bit better. Because we are going to be finding Bucky in this corner here. It's actually going to be avoiding the UVX shot, forcing the M1. That's always going to be slightly better for you. You do have a longer cooldown on the M1 than you do the UVX shot. The Bucky in a relatively open spot right now actually ends up not getting hit by that. And that's going to be the first totem falling. That's Undying now gone. And an injure coming through onto Phenom was working through on this gen, but clearly didn't have eyes in the back of her head, like our killer here today, and getting punished for it.
Actually, I have it on good authority that the Unknown's design was inspired by McCoat's trip to Cleveland. but we will be seeing that UVX barely missing out. With that Undying being broken now, Pentimento can come into play, but probably we're going to be waiting until there's a hook coming in for that. Unknown, unlike Executioner, having that teleport means a lot more map presence, a lot more ability to threaten to hold that Pentimento. We have 2 survivors hovering around his body. Ultra knows about one of them, but does he know about the second? Actually, they appear to have left. We are working on these gens instead. Kafuyo, he ping a little bit, will take an M1, running in the direction of... Actually, no, that's what he do.
That might have been a sprint burst from Kafuyo, but in a really interesting time in like a direction kind of towards the killer. So didn't make a whole lot of distance off of that. Delayed a hit for a little bit, but that's about as close to a free injury as you get for Ultra. Is it going to be worth a lot? No, but the little things in DBD certainly can add up. That is going to be another totem falling, so another opportunity to place down Pentimento. Ultra actually waiting here with the hallucination so that you can teleport back to her. And this is a very underrated, but very important part of the Unknown's kit. The fact that you can essentially proxy a hook unbelievably well, right? You just wait, get yourself a hallucination down by the hook, and then you can go do your own thing for a good 30 seconds or so, pressure out survivors for the rest of the map, and then get yourself back over to the hook with the teleport to pressure the unhook when it inevitably comes through, right? And that might be one of the features alongside a pretty good chase power that has bumped the Unknown up to such a high tier and also such a consistently well-performing killer. That being said, Sweetchild was actually willing to eat the weakened and the injured to get rid of that Pentimento, so damage control being done early pretty well for survivors. They are giving up their gen progress for a hot minute, and Bucky giving up any manner of distance there by running into the corner as Phenom hits second stage as well. And yeah, you're focused on the totems, but everything is falling apart around you. No one can safely go for this unhook. You know that this is just going to come back. Kafuyo is injured up. Gonna have to try and maybe get the thing up onto Bucky as well. Phenom is going to need more juice than an Orchard right now. More juice than Minute Maid even. Not going to be working anymore. Have anything to mitigate this. Nothing such as a dead art. Nothing such as a decisive strike. Remaining survivors definitely need to put their heads together. Likely need a reset here, or at the very least, a pickup onto Bucky would be good as well.
We are going to see this third generator popping, but with all 3 survivors being injured, this is a dire situation for them. It's easy, so easy for an Unknown to snowball off of this with the map pressure, with the chase power. Ultra has spotted out where that reset was trying to be. Kafuyo now weakened, Sweetchild now weakened, Bucky not weakened, but everyone is injured nonetheless, and Ultra also has a loop he can play here with his high walls. Normally bad for projectile killers, but for Unknown, you can bounce your UVX around the corner, you can hide your presence so that survivors can't dispel their weakened, and that is going to cost Kafuyo a down. Second fresh hook coming in, 4th hook of the game, and even though, yeah, we're down to only 2 gens left for these hook stages, this is a much stronger position for Ultra than it would look like.
Yeah, really domineering. Yeah, really domineering spot to be in right now for Ultra. Very happy with this. You got your kill nice and early on. Again, the survivors were able to get rid of quite a lot of the slowdown, but Ultra is also now hovering around the extra Pentimento as well. Surprisingly, doesn't seem to want to light it. Is just happier instead to find Bucky just sort of walking through the open right there. Cynic survivors potentially getting a bit sloppy right now. They have a kill, they have a death, so they're down a man, they have someone on the hook, someone injured, 2 weakened, and a large Diet Coke.
USA. No, I'm just kidding. But with that Pentimento coming in, Sweetchild pressuring this gen, even with resilience, is not going to be able to crank that out before Kafuyo's dead. Kafuyo's got about, what, a minute and some change left on that hook, and your gen just progresses too slowly. Bucky hovering for that pull is kind of keeping Ultra in that position, but with the weakened already being on him, means that this 1-for-1 might be forced, but Ultra also in a position to possibly snipe Sweetchild, who is injured and weakened with that UVX. She is being caught out here. Not a whole lot to work with. This could be its second hook survivor. Bucky has to go in for that pull onto Kafuyo, but then now, if Ultra just teleports back, Kafuyo's on death, but the kick will come in onto his gen. Now the regression on top of the Pentimento, and Ultra looking to just full send a UVX onto that unhook actually is going to go ahead and cancel it. You know, I'm not sure what we're doing here. Possibly using this sort of flickering the M2 to have some control over where your next hallucination spawn is. Yes, but it's a little bit unclear what the play is here.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter, right? Because you are able to get the as well, make that chase even more deadly, and get the M1 as well. So that's the best of both worlds. You can also then go for a crazy shot, able to dodge that one. Now has a little bit of time to get the eyes onto Ultra, move that weaken effect as quickly as you can right now. And what a nice shot coming through there. Cafulio going to be going to the grave on that account right now. These survivors, there is no possible way that they can complete another gen here, right? There's only 2 of them left. They're being pressured out. Sweet Child is injured, not going to be able to get healed up. Bucky is still weakened, so could eat a stray injury there as well. This is all but done. This is all but confirmed to be a 4K2 for Ultra on the Unknown here, with an incredibly strong performance right now.
Yeah, I mean, like we covered in the campfire chat, this is probably Cynic's most comfortable set. I'm almost surprised they opted to pick Executioner instead of this straight away. But we've been seeing so many strong, just mechanical performances from Ultra on this killer. We've been seeing the reason in this match why so many teams have opted to ban this killer against Cynic. They just do not want to deal with it. Sinners being brave enough to step up to the plate, having had some strong performances of their own. But that was with Wee Jason. I would be very curious to see if Phenom will be able to match Ultra's performance on the Unknown here. Bucky is now playing on a nice edge, not spotted by Ultra just yet. But Ultra wants to try and secure this 4K2 for sure. Well, it might depend on where the gates have spawned.
Yeah, because you can't exactly go for hatch right here if you're Bucky, right? You can't exactly make that hatch play. Sweet Child's just going to stay on the floor for too long. You aren't going to have the opportunity to get in before it can be closed in your face. So instead it's likely going to be a case of wait for the hatch to spawn in, and then after that, you know, hope that your exit gates are good, right? Sweet Child is going to be on this hook, is going to have a little bit of time to hang right now. Bucky needs to stay stealthy here, but this is terrifying right now. Oh my god, okay. This is as close as DBD has gotten to an actual horror game in quite a long time. Like, if I'm Bucky right now, my pants are thoroughly messed up at this point.
No comment. But Bucky definitely with nerves of steel. 2 separate occasions now, right next to Ultra, just playing it patient, knowing, well, if I'm caught here, I'm dead anyway, so I may as well pretend like he can't see me. It has paid off both times. Ultra, we will see there is 1 exit gate and eye shot of that hill. Is there another? Ultra in a very strong position to guard both gates once that hatch is closed. Bucky appears to be scouting the map for where that other exit gate might be, possibly trying to hover for a pull onto Sweet Child. We'll have to see. Ultra is sort of hovering around. He has the ability to take that vantage point and cover everything. But so far, Bucky doing a fantastic job of evading Ultra. These check spots on the shack, typically used for chase, but now being used for stealth. We got a little bit of a light here, though. Bucky maybe taking some time to paint the shack a little bit. We got some time, as Sweet Child is now going to die on hook, and we'll see how this endgame will play out.
I don't get nervous, but I'm starting to get a bit shaky here, you know what I mean? Because the hatch is going to be spawning in now. Can it be shut before the injure comes through? That's what we're going to be seeing right now. The one-on-one, it comes through. It gets shut into Bucky's face, and that's going to be the 4K coming through. Well fought here from Bucky, but at the very end, it just didn't quite go in your favor. Call that whatever you want it to. Hatch diff, ping diff, unknown diff, Texas diff, whatever the hell you want to say. Not an NA diff, because that would make me very sad, but still, very unlucky that Bucky wasn't able to get any outs there. But we now know our win condition, nice and solidly. 4K2 on sit from Cynic here. Relatively common tie condition, but kind of more on the higher end of performances. It's generally between a 4K1 and a 4K2, about a 50-50 split as to which one of those it is. The 4K2 definitely on the higher side of that. We are going to be seeing whether the Cynic survivors can snatch victory from the jaws of defeat here when they get to play Survivor on their next round. Don't go anywhere, we're going to be back very shortly.
Well, Wrecker's Yard is resembling Leeds more and more every day with this unknown gameplay. Phenom has the fate of this match on his shoulders, looking to top that 4K2 we just had, and his work is cut out for him. Going to be firing some UVX shots over this hill. Does see some scratch marks, but not quite the survivor who has left them just yet. Actually, now we will have eyes onto Lusty. Will be the first chase of this game. Got a broken bus, much like public transportation in Leeds. Honestly, I will probably make fun of them now, as Lusty will be getting tagged by that UVX shot.
Cole, have you heard of this brand new technology called doxing that's come out recently? It's great. I'm going to use it on you. Anyway, Lusty is actually going to be linked up broken on account of potentially the green add-on there. So that's going to be a little nice extra bonus here for Phenom. That's going to be ruined already before a gen can even get done. But before a gen can get done, we have a down instead. We do actually have positioning here for the flashlight save. Is it going to be coming through? Not quite. The Unknown's angle. The angle of that head is very peculiar. I will give it to Angels there. And you're in a rough spot anyway. So very unfortunate that one wasn't able to come through. Gen progress is really subpar for the survivors at this stage again. Potentially that's because, you know, they took that time early on to cleanse the ruin, whereas a lot of teams just power through it, right? So they've gotten rid of that very valuable perk in exchange for not having great early gen pressure, right? If Phenom sticks close to this hook for Lusty, it's not really going to matter, right? But as we said earlier, you don't need to stay in close for the hook when you're playing, because you can just place a little buddy over there and then return to a little buddy whenever you feel like it.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, Penamento playing it. Actually, Phenom with both Penamento and Eruption as a backup plan can make for a very punishing 3v1 once we get there. Phenom will be teleporting back to that hook, trying to hold Lusty here, but this is not a lot of generators around this hook, so not an ideal position to hold. Possibly can take a position on that hill to try and fire some UVX shots while keeping an eye on Lusty, but just the range might just not be there, so Cynic survivors have the opportunity to crank out 3 separate gens while this is happening. Would bring them to a tie con at a minimum, and then only needing 1 more gen. We see Ultra being taking chase the corner of the map. His gen is high progress here. I'm not sure why running to the corner just to leave it after taking the tag, but we'll see. He does have a pretty good forward play, but as noted in previous games, this allows you to break line of sight on the survivor so they can not remove the weapon. Phenom teleporting back to the unhook, Nini dropping an FTP onto Lusty, trying to delay that tunnel out. And now who will Phenom go for? Will it be onto Nini or will it be onto Lusty? And it looks like Lusty is in his sights.
Yeah, Lusty actually being tagged up here needs to make something out of this chase. You have, you were given quite a good opportunity with that for the people play, and you're going to be using bounce to create a little bit more distance as well. But you got to remember to keep your eyes on the shot at all times, because one more shot will spell your doom. Not going to be coming through right there, and is going to be able to get rid of that weakened state effect as well. So can rest a little more pretty there, unless that shot comes through, which is going to be a hell of a time for Lusty to be dealing with right now. And it's so hard trying to, you know, turn this entire time, recognize the fact that a shot could come out. Draw condition has already come through. That's going to be another completed, and there's actually room for these survivors to just bully through on the last gen. It seems like that's what they want to do. Angels is here with the flashlight for the save on the pallet as well, but it's not going to be happening. Lusty is going to be dying here. That is completely undisputed, right? Oh yeah. Now you only need 1 more gen from the survivor's side, but you still have, now you're going to be dealing with Pentamento. Survivors are going to need to take a little moment to reset right now, so I truly think this could still go either way. Obviously, you can't win if you're Phenom anymore, but whether it's a tie, whether it's a win for the survivors, I reckon it's still a 50-50 chance.
With that reset coming in, that will help the Cynic survivors be in a position to crank out that last gen, because they have 2 gens remaining. There's 4 different gens they can target, not the 3 that we normally see in situations, and that will give them a lot more options. But Angels is now the one who is being run down, gets to the corner of the map, will die in the corner, and crucially dying far away. However, Phenom does have a pretty good network of hallucinations which he can teleport, so even trying to work a gen cross map from this hook that's about to occur is not as safe as you'd like it to be. That Penamina Totem also standing. Well, okay, two being caster cursed in one match. Let's go. This is why they pay us the big bucks, as Ultra is hovering around to try and get this save. Nini in the position to try and get that last gen done. Pretty good progress on that. I'd estimate about 40% just by the audio. The UBX bounce not connecting with him, as Phenom is just going to hold this hill, try and hold the choke for people trying to rescue Angels, and also push Nini off this gen, the Eruption coming in. Nini, however, has this other gen by the filler that he can try to pressure instead. That would be a little bit out of Phenom's sight, but there's also a hallucination drop on that, as Phenom is chasing Ultra away from the unhook. No damage or weaken coming in onto him so far, but this could happen very, very shortly.
It'll be interesting to see whether Ultra even cares if they go down there, necessarily where they run right now, if the unhook is going to be coming through onto Angels, right? It could be an idea to just continue to let Angels hang and just continue to work on the generator. That's what Nini has done over on this generator over here. As you get close to it, this is the progress. That is very well progressed, approaching more kind of the realm of 90%. And also, if a down doesn't come through, Eruption's not going to do anything. Plus, the regression events are slowly lowering. And also, Ultra was able to come back through, get the unhook. Nini is still uninjured, free to continue just pressuring out this gen, stop the regression a little bit. And provided you can continue to dodge this weaken, then Nini has a lot of space and distance to work with here for Ultra and Angels to reset themselves, get back on this generator as well. This is where getting rid of Ruin is so valuable, right? Oftentimes, a lot of Survivor teams would still have it up by this point, right? They just would have opted to not get rid of it. However, all this progress on this generator is now permanent, right? And that is doing wonders for the Survivors right now.
Yeah, I like this adaptation. We saw in that Executioner set, Cynic left the Ruin and Undying Totems up for the entire game. It did win that set, but I feel like it could have been better if they had taken the time to break those totems earlier. They have decided to change their game plan a little bit. Ultra now the one in his sights, but he will get that vault in time. Not going to go down just yet, and more importantly, he's running far away from these gens. Remember, Nini has been cranking out this one particular gen this entire time. If Ultra is able to juke for just a little bit, and knowing that Angels is almost certainly hovering around with a flashlight, Phenom has to be very careful. It's a race against the clock, and he does not have that much.
I mean, you're banking on the Eruption. You're banking on the Eruption right now if you're Phenom, right? And finally, you are going to be getting it. That generator, it's approaching its last couple of regression events, and it's actually just going to be... It's almost like the Survivors just read the mind of the killer, right? Able to get far away from that, able to get far away from the gen that was being teleported to. Nini is being pressured out, but Nini is in absolutely no danger, right? Is only going to now be injured, hasn't even taken a single hook stage yet. A hook through here onto Nini would not get our kill the result they need, right? And you can see the Unknown being forced to just go right back over to the generators, right? There's even potential here, potentially for Ultra to start pressuring, you know, another generator, as Angels is also going to create a phenomenal chase right now. So much time is being bought by these Survivors. Remember that time is your #1 tool in Dead by Daylight, right? The longer these chases last, the more chance that Gen's just going to pop into space, and it's going to be a loss coming through.
Yeah, this pressure that Angels has been exerting, always being around for those potential saves, has bought Phenom, it's bought Cynic so much time. Phenom is being split apart. He has to try and pressure this gen, but also chasing Ultra, but... Oh, this could be a major mistake. The interruption on the Dispel means that Angels is very likely going to be two-tapped here, getting the injury and the automatic weaken, but he's playing this rock. It's not going to be able to dispel the weaken, but with a good mind to get away from it, he does get the Dispel. Angels somehow miraculously gets out of that situation without going down. It would have been an absolute disaster for Cynic if they did. And Ultra's been working a different gen this entire time. They're going to pop it.
Yeah, with resilience as well. I mean, if you're the Unknown here, you're just banking on that not being done right now, and it seems that our battle North versus South America, well, I know a couple of people that are going to be very happy about this, and a couple of people which are going to be crying about it. Not naming names or anything, cold, but still, congratulations here to Cynic on the victory here today. We're taking that generator. They have won this one out, completing more gens here. I mean, maybe the dream of 18k iridescent shards for Sinners simply not going to be happening today.
Unfortunately not, and I mean, we saw in that nurse that we had at one point a 5 times P100 lobby, so definitely some pub enjoyers in these matches going to appreciate those iridescent shards for, you know, some more cosmetics, possibly some DLC in the future. Big shout out to Behavior for constantly, in recent months, sponsoring our DBDLeague event and some other orgs too, throwing in some iridescent shards to, you know, really shout out and reward some of the most dedicated players that they have. And that will be Nini going down in this corner. The Cynic Survivor still going at it, possibly. This is Reset coming in, possibly going to be able to get another gen done. Obviously, you want to end the season strong. You may have won the match, but you can still play for the best result imaginable, put up a good showing, and give the fans something to look forward to for a possible appearance in the next event. We do have that Halloween event in the works. For those of you who are sticking around after playoffs, we should be seeing more of these teams.
Absolutely. We are also celebrating our 9th anniversary of DBDLeague. Of course, the exact date of that celebration was last week, but we are still all very much in the anniversary mood, you know? I mean, 9 years of this event is absolutely ridiculous. Really is going to be getting off the hook with second win. Angels is going to continue to be bullied out, but to be honest, everything else that happens in this match is going to be 6. I can't read, apparently. The game has 9 seasons of DBDL, 6 years. Yeah, make it make sense. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have eyeballs, which is a problem, but we aren't celebrating 9 years, we're celebrating 6 years instead. They're very similar numbers, right, Cole? They're very easy to get.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am someone who has a lot of experience with being geriatric. I sympathize with your struggle here. And Ultra is the one who's now in the struggle with that. So teleport coming in will get Phenom attack onto him. We got 200 survivors, only 6 stages so far, so this game is progressing relatively slowly by Unknown standards. Not having the slugfest we normally would get. I think maybe some of this boils down to a little bit of discomfort for Phenom. I do think Sinners were expecting Jason to be playing this killer as he normally does, and maybe that would have actually changed the tide for Sinners, but unfortunate situation there. But this will be the down onto Ultra once again, an eruption cross-triggering from cross-map. This will be the 7th hook of the game.
Yeah, absolutely will. Phenom is just trying to do as much as you can with little as you can. Obviously, Sinners had a bit of a rough time in this tournament. They were able to get some nice upset wins every now and then, but it seems like they are just going to be last place in our tournament here. Very unfortunate for them. But there's still a little bit of pride to play for. They're still on stream. They still want to showcase their skills a little bit longer. Nice hit through there onto Angels. I mean, the gen on this side, surely it's out of regression events by now, right? With just the amount it's been pressured out, and also gonna be suffering the wrath of maybe slightly janky bounce mechanics on the Unknown. Sometimes they work massively in your favor, you know, where you get a hit on a survivor, just like, yeah, no, I meant to hit that. I meant for it to explode in that exact spot, right? And then sometimes you're just thinking, okay, what in the hell is that, right? But yeah, Phenom, not exactly the main killer player, still was a phenomenal nurse in that step, but struggling here. We're struggling here on the Unknown right now. While we are stalling for time, I was the one to talk about earlier. Was there anything you wanted to talk about, Cole? Anything you wanted to talk about?
I do want to shout out, like, when we saw the announcement for this season 9, which teams were announced, we had a lot. It was how stacked this event has been, and the fact that we've had 4 different regions being represented. We've had North America, South America, Europe, and some of these strong Russian teams making a comeback as well. It's been very, very cool to see this cross-region play, seeing how they stack up against each other. For example, Sinners taking 2 big upset wins against top Russian teams in particular. Sinners' 2 wins this season have been against Ariandel and Trauma. They took wins off the best Russian team, so maybe proving, hey, South America could be Russia's kryptonite in this sense. Ariandel, in turn, taking wins off Eternal and Elysium, who may have finished higher place than them, but, you know, there's this little interplay between how those, you know, region matchups go. It's been very cool to see. As we reach endgame, all gens popping. Angel's the last survivor standing, trying to be the guardian angel for his team, getting hit through that pallet, not dropping it. And will we be able to have a pickup on the survivor? Phenom taking that teleport to cut him off. Now he has a small loop to play around with this UVX that will be dangerous for Angels, but there is a pallet here. And Angel's a fantastic 1v1 player, should be able to run this for a while, but will it be... I'm just going to stop talking.
That might be the caster curse of the year right there, ladies and gentlemen. It's interesting what you say about DBD such a regional event. Obviously, I wasn't heavily involved with DBD esports in the earlier years of it. You know, for the 9 years that the game has been out, apparently, according to myself, of course. But yeah, no, lots of esports are generally geared towards different regions, right? And traditionally, Europe and specifically areas such as Russia have been the place for DBD esports, right? What we are seeing here in DBDLeague is the expansion of that. You know, we have South American team Sinners who actually made the tournament and have, even though they lost place, I think they've still earned their spot here. You know, they've gotten some nice upset wins. They've shown flashes of brilliance. They're no means a bad team. They're just sort of in with such strong competition, right, that inevitably they're going to struggle a bit, right? But we also have North American representation as well, with teams such as Cynic, so it's really nice to see this becoming more international. Just wait in 5 years' time or so when, I don't know, like DBDL has its own LAN event held at Madison Square Garden or something like that. And then we get to see who the best region really is without all this, you know, ping or exit lag stuff, you know?
Antarctica, Penguins on top. I'm calling it now.
I understand. Oh, man. But yeah, that's going to be Cynic securing our win here today. 2-1 here. So yeah, Cynic getting the win against Sinners here today.